appeals that decision to the Rapid City Council. All appeals must be submitted in writing to the Community Planning and Development Services Department by the close of business on the 7th full calendar day following this Planning Commission meeting. Are there any items that staff would like removed?
Number 5, please.
Number 5. Any item from the commission? From the audience? Chair, I'd look for a motion on items 1 through 4 on the consent calendar. Motion by Tim, second by Linda. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Item number 5.
Thank you. Good morning. Item number 5 is 14 PD 11, a major amendment to the planned residential development to change the use on lot 13 from storage to residential. In 1992, the Planning Commission City Council approved a planned residential development that would allow development of single-family residential lots on lots 1 through 12 within the Cap Heights subdivision, with lot 13 being identified as a storage lot. The property has not been utilized as storage, and as such, the property owner has submitted this application to change the approved use in the property from storage to residential. Let me take you through some slides. Here's the location of the property. As you can see, accessed by North Grand Vista Court. An aerial view of the property. Property to the west, that's you can see here as Zone Park Forest, is part of the Skyline Wilderness, owned by the city. A look at the site layout and the access. It should be noted here that the Rapid City Fire Department had noted that there were some concerns regarding the need for a turnaround and for and that there were some concerns regarding the fire flows in the area. Rapid City Fire Department worked with the property owner and have determined that if the property is fire sprinkler protected, then the need for that intermediate turnaround and the concerns with the fire flow could be mitigated. So on the dais you'll see before you revised stipulations for item number 5, which include a revised stipulation regarding fire department requirements. That revised stipulation reads that prior to issuance of a building permit, all requirements of the Rapid City Fire Department shall be met. In particular, a fire sprinkler system in concurrence with the Rapid City Fire Department shall be provided to offset the access and fire flow limitations. In addition, the applicant should coordinate with the fire department to conduct an evaluation of the property for the purpose of conforming with the Wildland Urban Interface Survivable Space Initiative. And a wildlands fuels mitigation plan shall be developed and executed as necessary as a part of this project. Look at the sign posted on the property. As you can see, there's quite a bit of tree cover and some steep topographical limitations to the site. A look from the access road, the private asphalt road, down into the property. A look at some of the neighboring properties to the south and to the north. Another look on the site, looking up the hill towards the south. And this is a shot from the property looking back onto the access road. As well as the concerns from the fire department. We should note that the utility service for the property, specifically the sewer service, is the applicant has submitted information that shows that the sewer service line will be designed in compliance with Rapid City Municipal Code. With that, staff is recommending to approve the application with the revised stipulations as you see on the dais. The property owner, I believe, is available for questions if you have any.
I do have a speaker request for Mr. Hall, if you'd like to speak.
All I want to say is I'm available to answer any questions that the board may have or any of the adjoining neighbors. I've had contact via mail, as you were invited them all to call. Spoke with everyone on the cul-de-sac that adjoins this property. And I've been told by each one of them individually, and that's why I was on here this morning, that this is what we're asking for.
Move to approve.
I have have a motion to approve by Steve, second by Linda. Any further discussion? Questions from the commission? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Before we go to the regular consent item, or regular agenda, do we need to add an agenda item at this time in the meeting? Is it a discussion item or request for?
Mr. Chair, that is a discussion item after the...
That is a discussion item, so we'll do it under discussion. Item number 6, regular agenda. Vicki, good morning.
Good morning. Fletcher is taking a little vacation, so bear with me as I try to present his application for you. Item number 6 is a conditional use permit to allow an on-sale liquor establishment in conjunction with a beauty salon. This is for the Mystique Edge Salon. You had previously approved a similar request for them on a site that was just a couple blocks south of this. They've since relocated to the 318 Mount Rushmore Road strip mall. They're in Suite E, and with that, I will show you some slides. The hatched area is the location of the entire strip mall. As you can see, everything around the property is zoned general commercial. The aerial of the site. The parking for the property, for the most part, is along the south side of the building. There is some parking on the north side. It's 45-degree parking, and it does back into the vacated alley and can circle around and then enter Mount Rushmore Road heading west. There are also 11 additional leased parking spaces. And those locations are right here. 66 spaces are required for the site. They have 54 on site with 11 additional, so they are meeting the parking requirement. The layout of the site, again, you can kind of see a little better some of the on-site parking. You can see the hatched area within the footprint of the building. That is where Mystique Edge is located. This is the layout of the 11 salons that they have within that footprint. The sign package that they submitted showing that they are advertising for the use already. They are located in the building right now. They're just trying to then add the on-sale liquor portion of the use. And mind you, that is for beer and wine only. Some of the signage. Looking at the south elevation of the building. A little closer to the suite itself, you can see the red sign in the window. Looking to the south. This is looking west down Apalda Street, looking east down Apalda Street, looking south on Mount Rushmore Road, and looking north on Mount Rushmore Road. As we saw, this is an area of general commercial, and it is closely also to our central business district. And with that, we do see that there are several on-sale liquor establishments in the area. Many of them are associated with restaurants. However, this particular use is coming in so that if approved, it is specifically in conjunction with the beauty salon itself. There are no residences or churches within close proximity of this. It meets the requirements set forth for a conditional use permit for on-sale liquor. We are recommending that it be approved and be operated only in conjunction with the salon. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Otherwise, we recommend that you approve it with the stipulations as outlined in the staff report.
Vicki, what is the status of the conditional use on the previous site of Mystique Edge? Was that with the business or with the property?
It went with the business itself, so if someone else were to come in, we would have to go back and look at that again. If another salon came into that exact location and operated exactly like Mystique, we would have to take a look and make sure that it didn't require another conditional use permit. Potentially it wouldn't, but most likely it wouldn't be in the same operation, so you'd see it again.
Very good. I don't have any lights up from the commission. Motion by Steve, second by Tim. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Discussion. We have an item that is on the desk for the reclassification of Park Drive, currently a minor arterial, and on the major street design. The recommendation is, or the discussion at this time is to have the street reclassified to a collector street, and that would be in accordance with some setbacks and use of the street, I presume. Kip, are you going to?
Morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the past, we've received multiple requests for reclassification of Park Drive, which is currently classified as a minor arterial street in the major street plan, and to downgrade that to a collector street. Right now, there's an application that's currently suspended, and we'd like to get that off the table and do this as the city. For the city to do this, it requires Planning Commission authorization. With those previous applications, the Development Review Team has met and has examined this issue. And some of the issues with Park Drive are at the northern end where it was constructed, there is not sufficient right-of-way for it ever to be a minor arterial. A minor arterial generally requires 100 feet of right-of-way, 80 feet at the minimum, and in some places the Park Drive right-of-way is 60 feet, and there are structures built close to the roadway, so there'd be no way for us to ever get that right-of-way without purchasing up a bunch of houses along the north end of Park Drive. It was originally a collector street on the original major street plan, and then the major street plan was revised in like 1998, I believe, and then it was reclassified as a minor arterial, at which point those structures had already been constructed, so that was kind of an oversight on staff's part. Also, in the network functioning of the roadway, Park Drive does not continue north or south where it currently terminates. On the north end, it terminates at Jackson Boulevard. At the south end, it terminates at Corral Drive, and there's no possibility of that roadway ever extending. So it doesn't really function as an arterial. It functions more as a collector street, which just funnels local traffic out to the major roadways of the area. So staff is generally in support of the reclassification, and in order for us to bring forth an application, we would like direction from the Planning Commission to do so.
I believe acknowledge the report for the purposes of discussion and request that this would come forward as an agenda item for approval after public notice.
The correct motion would be to direct staff to bring forward a comprehensive plan amendment to the major street plan to reclassify Park Drive from an arterial street to a collector street.
Do I have that motion from Jan? What she said.
I got a couple questions, John.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Linda. Commissioner Andy Scull.
What are we reclassifying? I mean, I don't understand why we need to reclassify it. I mean, I understand the limitations, but what's the benefit in reclassification, and why would somebody want to do that? Is it, what I think about is by going from a higher level to a lower level, is there less funding for improvements? Does it affect the utilities that could potentially be put underneath that road in the future?
The big item is the right-of-way width that's required. And so if anybody comes along and plats on those undeveloped areas of Park Drive, they have to dedicate a bunch of additional right-of-way, which then takes away some of the land that's available for their use. So as I said, the right-of-way on the northern end is approximately 60 feet in places, and then for someone to come in at the southern end and have to dedicate up to 20 feet of right-of-way, and it wouldn't match, would be discontiguous with the rest of the right-of-way along the additional Park Drive.
But it wouldn't affect funding or any kind of mechanism to maintain that road in the future?
No, sir, not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have a plat that we approved somewhere up across from Corral Drive? Were they required then for a 100-foot setback because of the classification on the road?
I don't recall that we have 100 feet of right-of-way anywhere right now on that street. We did recently look at a master plan that Dr. Severson had brought in for a property that's across from the school on the east side of Park Drive. And he's doing the townhomes up at the northern end, or right along Park Drive, rather, and then the single family up at the northern end. And that's kind of what got this discussion going, is knowing that to match what's there today, the function of the street. This is never a through street. It's not a Fifth Street. It's not a Mount Rushmore Road, and it really is going to function as a collector. And that way they get to keep that right-of-way, develop it, and it goes on the tax rolls for the city.
Very good. I have a motion. Andy, do you have another question, or you're not done? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. One other comment, I guess, during discussion is in the Rapid City Journal this morning. Their editorial was on the importance of pedestrian safety and specifically addressing some of the needs downtown. I'm not sure where we are going with that discussion. The police department will be running a public campaign to bring awareness of pedestrian safety, both to pedestrians and drivers. Having been struck in the street downtown myself, this is an issue that I'm not exactly sure that we start here, but at the council level, there have over the years been a number of proposals that have come forward, and I don't know that we've ever seriously considered them, but in the master plan for Main Street Square funding and the revitalization, as well as the 1991 downtown comprehensive plan, the discussion of creating 2 lanes in St. Joe and Main Street were brought forward as options to maybe control the traffic a little bit. 3 lanes with the parking and the length of the vehicles. Pickups now extend into one of the travel lanes. There are no mid-block crossings in the corridor between 5th and 8th Street, which creates a lot of jaywalking from people walking across the street. A number of those things, and just as a comment, I guess, out of this discussion, Amanda, is if the council has any desire to ask the city to take a look at that, especially with the development of the gardens now across Omaha, it might be time to take another look and discuss pedestrian safety in downtown. So, Steve Rollinger.
Issue since that's been done? I wasn't aware of that, I guess.
I think the biggest benefit to improve the pedestrian safety in our downtown core is the decision that the police department made to ticket anyone that jaywalked. And I think when the word got out that if you stepped off the curb and it wasn't in a pedestrian crosswalk, you were subject to a ticket, or at least a warning, that improved public safety more than anything. It decreased the number of accidents. I understand the statement about 5th Street. I see it every day. They're crossing mid-block, and I don't know that there's, obviously it's something that the street department looks at constantly, the timing of the lights, whether or not the pedestrian crossing safely and then it still allows the vehicles to go, etc. When we see that we have problem corners, when the police department brings us it to our attention that there's an issue, it's something that we continue to look at, but I don't know of any additional studies that have been planned at this time.
I guess that's kind of my question, because I know, with the reason we had the time delayed so the pedestrians can walk first, and I didn't know if there's been a study that's shown that we continue to have the same issue, or if that's resolved anything before we jump into doing another major study. We've just did a fix. We should probably take a look at and see have things changed prior to that, I guess, would be my comment on that.
If we could let Kip speak to that.
Kip?
Thank you. It's only been a year or two since that light has been changed. It's called a leading pedestrian indicator, which allows the pedestrian to get into the intersection before the vehicles do. Usually it takes a couple, 3 years before you see any results, and so we'll probably take a look at that. We currently don't have a traffic engineer on staff, so that kind of hinders our ability to look at that. And our Public Works Department could take another look at that, but I think we're probably going to wait about another year or so to see the results. Recently also, the Community Planning and Development Services was awarded a grant to perform a walk audit. If you've never done a walk audit, it's a pretty cool thing. We get a group of people together and we pick an area of town and you just walk it. And at the end, you stop and review it. What was comfortable, what wasn't comfortable, what would make it a better place to walk, how did you feel? So we'll be conducting a few of those over the next year in various parts of town. And we're always looking for volunteers to help us out on the walk audit. So if anybody here is interested, just get a hold of myself or Patsy or Sandy Smith in our department, and we'll be happy to have you join us on the walk audit. And we're also looking for suggestions of areas of town where you think this would be a good place to do it, because obviously it's a big community and we can't cover everything. So if there's a hot issue that you think of, please let us know and we'd be happy to take a look at it.
Thank you. Alderwoman Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I ask a question of either Vicki or Kip as well?
Sure.
Since this topic was brought up, I know when Roger Brooks presented his study. One of his recommendations in our downtown area was to reduce the lanes on the one-way streets to 2 and expand that area, kind of what the chairman was talking about as far as giving more space because of the pickups extending out and stuff. The other recommendation was to turn the one-way streets into two-way streets. So the question, since it was posed, who would initiate that? Would that just come from the traffic engineer when one is hired as far as taking a look at that? Would it have to be a direction from the city council, or would the planning commission make that recommendation to have that studied?
Obviously, we would need to get the recommendation of our traffic engineer that's looked at the impact on how that traffic is going to flow beyond that point of changing those street directions. But ultimately, it's a decision that would be left up to council.
So it would take a direction from council to take a look at it and consider and bring back advantages and disadvantages, or?
I believe the study tried to do that for us already. I think more importantly, what we would want to do is have our traffic engineer give his recommendation to that study, and then ultimately council would need to make the final decision.
Okay. So just so that the planning commission's aware of that too. City council members change. We're in the middle of an election, so as long as we've got that on hand and we know that, then I think that that's a direction we can do once the city or the traffic engineer is hired and has a chance to look things over and stuff. So, but I think it's a great suggestion that we go ahead and take a look at it. Thank you.
Steve?
That's up to Public Works Department. I know they've advertised the position a few times. It's currently advertised again. They're having a hard time finding qualified candidates in this area, and you know, sometimes it's hard to bring people in here. People who come here love it, but if you're not from here, you don't quite understand the attractions that we have here. So hopefully we'll get somebody on board soon.
July is usually the best month to have the candidates in for an interview.
Dale Tech is functioning as our traffic engineer right now, our city engineer. He can do the traffic stuff as well, but of course he's got a pretty full plate, so traffic issues aren't on his for number one.
Well,
priority.
I think the reason that I bring that up is that we've really made great gains in this community to make our community a better, more inviting place. We win national awards for patriotism and for tourism. The bike paths have been another article on the front pages. Now the rental bike stations that I've seen in larger cities are going to be available here. And I just think that public safety element of getting our streets, our pedestrians safe, and making sure that our motorists have a clear path without a racetrack path through downtown is something that we ought to start talking about. So I thank you all for the discussion. Chair would look for a motion to adjourn if there's no further business. Motion? Second. All those in favor say aye.